Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I figured that since actually today I am exactly 24 weeks pregnant, which equals 6 months pregnant, I could finally tell you guys how I found out I was pregnant and how this journey has been so far, especially with my chronic health issues. If you have never been pregnant before, this might not make sense, but I had a really hard time at first accepting I was pregnant. Something that I didn't talk a whole lot about was the fact that we did get pregnant on purpose and we've been trying for 10 months. They tell you not to seek help from a fertility doctor until you've been trying for at least a year. So because we were kind of reaching that year mark, I thought we would need some intervention in some way, and I just wasn't expecting it. And I just tend to think the worst when it comes to my body. So it's taken me till about, I would say now, maybe 3 weeks up until now, that I finally really accepted that I'm pregnant and I really feel pregnant. Probably also because I've been feeling her kicking finally, so it all does feel real. I actually have a bump now, which I will show you in a little while. But yeah, there is a lot to this story. Since it is the 6th month of the year and I am 6 months pregnant, that means I've been pregnant for pretty much all of 2019. And I did notice changes as the new year came around, but I was kind of just chalking it up to the fact that it was a new year and I'd kind of made some personal goals for myself that I felt like were motivating me to feeling like a different person. I also turned 25 in January, and a lot of people say that 25 is like that year when your brain is like, whoop, everything makes sense, you're fully mature. I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily true, but you know what I mean? Like there's this change that happens when you're 25, and I was kind of attributing all these weird feelings that I was having just to that maybe, and now looking back on it, it was probably a combination of that and the fact that I was like very, very newly pregnant. So when I think back to when I was first pregnant, it's kind of hard to tell what were symptoms of pregnancy and what was other things, because there's two things going on. First of all, turning 25. The second thing being that I thought I had gastroparesis, or I probably still do, but the symptoms that I was experiencing for gastroparesis matched my pregnancy symptoms. So it was a little bit weird to kind of understand exactly when it really happened, if that makes sense. There were other factors as well that were kind of throwing my brain off. For example, I had the whole Protonix debacle, which I talked about in this video. I will link it below to explain that situation, but because of that, my period had been kind of irregular for the past few months, so the fact that it was late wasn't really an indication to me that I might be pregnant. And like I said, we've been trying for 10 months, and so I just thought, oh, well, it's not going to happen until after, you know, at least it's been a year that we've been trying, and that's going to be after we're married, and maybe that's just when the timing just fits a little bit better. And of course, life does what it does, and it just does what it wants, and I got pregnant at what I would have considered a bad time, like bad timing, but I'm obviously okay with it now. I am very happy about it now. So the whole month of January, after having finally gained enough weight to be considered not underweight anymore, I suddenly lost my appetite again. Like I just didn't want to eat at all. I wasn't necessarily feeling sick at that point, but I was definitely not wanting to eat anything, ever. I just never had the urge to eat. And it was kind of worrisome. Around January 15th, which is my birthday actually, we went out to Orlando for dinner and a movie, and I just remember smelling all the smells of the foods, walking around the city walk in Orlando and thinking, gosh, something's gonna have to make me feel like I want to eat it, because everything smelled so good, but still no appetite, which was very weird. So that was kind of like the first sign I saw that something was different, but again, loss of appetite is something that you experience with gastroparesis. I also was randomly throwing up, but it wasn't like only in the mornings. Not that morning sickness really is only in the mornings, but it was just kind of random. I don't even know how to explain it. Random puking, but it wasn't like all that dramatic. And I thought that was also just me puking out my undigested food because of gastroparesis. So that's when things were a little bit weird, but I wasn't expecting my period again until about January 31st or the very beginning of February, so I didn't think anything of it. I didn't want to take any more pregnancy tests because after 10 months of constantly seeing negatives, I just thought I would actually for once give it a little bit more time, which is ironic because the one time I was pregnant is the time that I didn't test right away. So this happened, pardon the gross photo, but I broke out really badly on my chin. It might not look that bad in the photo, but it was like to the point that my whole bottom lip was like numb. Like I couldn't move it, or well, I could move it, but I couldn't really feel it, and it was just painful. And I was like, why is this happening? It must be hormones. Again, thinking maybe it's because I was about to get my period, but I hardly ever break out like this before my period. Not to this degree. February 10th rolls around and now I am 10 days late for my period. Again, I didn't even think to test. At this point, I had bought a ton of really cheap Amazon pregnancy tests because being someone that's trying to conceive, and I've watched a lot of YouTube videos, I've joined Facebook groups of people trying to conceive, it just seems more economically feasible to buy these super cheap little strips to see if you're pregnant, and then, you know, follow up with another test if it is positive. Maybe a better quality test, but just a way of not wasting too much money. And ironically, I don't watch Aspen Overd, I think that's her name. I don't watch her, but her video had come up in my recommended where she was finding out she was pregnant and she had been using the exact same strips. So it kind of hadn't like entered my mind yet that I should actually use them, even though they're so cheap, like it wouldn't matter. So watching her video and seeing her surprise that those tests picked it up even as early as she was is what sparked me to think that I should take a test. So yeah, just a funny little side story. Literally all this time I'm pregnant and have no idea. So finally on the evening of February 12th, after Mikey got home from work, I asked him if he would I don't want to say assist me taking a test, but just be there while I was taking a test. And I just wanted him to be there for it. And it's kind of interesting because every other time that I tested in previous months, he wasn't around, or maybe he was in the next room or something, but this time he was actually like there through the whole thing. Cool, right? I took one test, instantly it was positive, but we were in a little bit of a state of shock and I didn't believe it, and instantly I was like, these are really cheap tests, so I don't know if this is accurate, but let's try it again. We tried it 3 more times. I'll show you a picture, and there's the 2 lines each time. I then had Mikey pee on one just to see if they were defective, and his came out negative. And still we were like, wait, this isn't happening. So basically I called my older sister, who has been pregnant many times, and I asked her if she'd ever used this particular brand, and just because I just needed someone to like clarify for me, I guess. And she said she hadn't, but that I should definitely go to the store and buy a better one and see what it said. And so we did. And so this is me starting to film that happening, but he was already looking at the results showing positive. I'll show you that little clip now. Hi.
Hey there.
I'm waiting to see what the pregnancy test says, but we'll be fine either way because we're about to get married. I'm very excited. When do we check it? And then us realizing that we were actually pregnant. And pardon how I look in this, I had been feeling horrible, obviously, hadn't slept. I hadn't eaten, so yeah, not looking too great, but this was a fun moment. Okay, wait, really?
I mean, hun, what do you think?
My finger's in front of it because I'm shaking. After this video, you can kind of see it happening, but we kind of lost it completely, and we instantly started calling our parents and our siblings and everybody, which looking back at, I think I would have done a little bit differently, but we were just so in shock and like not sure that it was really real, even though we took so many tests, that we just called everyone right away because we were like, what the heck? So in fact, when I called my parents and told them, I was crying so hard that my dad had to ask me if I was even okay with it, and I was like, yes, of course, I wanted this, but I was just so overcome with emotion, and it was a crazy hectic time. I think next time that we find out we're pregnant, because we do want more kids, I will maybe try to film my parents' reactions and other people's reactions and kind of do that a little differently, but it being our first time experiencing anything like this, we just could not contain our excitement. The next thing I thought to do was call the doctor because, hello, pregnant, and calculating when my last period was, I figured I was about 7 weeks, and the first thing that they did tell me was that they would not see me until 8 weeks, which was really annoying because I am a type 1 diabetic. I have had chronic health issues, and it was a little concerning, but they had to wait. And so I made an appointment with my general practitioner just in the meantime, just to let her know what was going on. They never did a blood test to confirm. Obviously I had all these test results to show, and they were happy with that. And I didn't see an actual OB until 12 weeks, but yeah, that's how the whole journey started. I was about 7 weeks when I found out. Okay, so let's talk about my wedding, because that became a whole different situation after realizing I was pregnant, and I'm okay with it. I really am. It was different than anything I was expecting, but given that we had been blessed with this amazing gift, I was okay with it. So my wedding was on March 11th, and that time I was 10 weeks along, so about towards the end of my first trimester. But this is what I really need to start telling you guys about, and it's kind of slipping my mind now because pregnancy has been easier in the second trimester by like a little bit. It's still difficult, but I'm almost like forgetting how difficult it was in the beginning, and I'm trying to remember because I promised myself that I would tell you guys this. Pregnancy brain is a real thing, I'm telling you that now, and it was really affecting me during my wedding time just because it was so hectic. I had all these people coming into town, last minute details to take care of, still constantly throwing up, and I could not even get in a car really. So I was really bedridden during that time, and it did make me sad because I had so many family members in town, and I missed out on a lot of different moments with them and just going out to eat with them and hanging out because I was so miserable, you guys. I was losing a lot of weight at first, which I've thankfully put back on, and I'm doing a lot better now, but I was really literally in bed all the time, having to eat every hour and a half or so and just puking a lot. So it was really hard, and I instantly panicked and thought, how am I going to handle my wedding day? At about 15 or 16 weeks was when I finally got some real good nausea medication to lessen those feelings, but my first trimester I really had not a lot of help. It was just whatever was naturally happening to me, and they didn't want to give me anything for it. So that was really hard on my wedding day, like really hard. Just the constant needing to snack, throw up, the emotion, stress of trying to make sure that everything flowed nicely for our special day. Things that I had to do at my wedding because I was pregnant. First of all, most people knew. It was kind of hard to hide. We didn't make an official announcement, but I think a lot of people knew I wasn't drinking at the wedding, which wasn't something that made me too sad. I'm not a huge drinker. I think it would have helped me loosen up a little bit because my nerves were so high the whole day. So everybody else was kind of drunk and I was very sober, which was a little bit hard, but at the same time, I'm glad that I was like fully there, you know, well, as fully there as I could be while being that sick. I couldn't keep my thoughts straight. I couldn't remember anything. But it was still a wonderful wedding, and it is so special that she was there with us. I can't believe at that time she was literally this size. She was like the size of a tater tot, and yet she was causing all this ruckus in our lives, but also a lot of excitement. So I just had to learn to really let go and to love the wedding for what it was, which was a celebration of my love for my husband, and just not care too much about what I looked like and looking perfect. I mean, most people go and they get a tan, they whiten their teeth, get their hair professionally done. I've been staying out of the sun. I didn't have my teeth whitened because the very thought of it made me feel like I would just throw up more, obviously. Let's see, I hadn't gone to get my hair done because literally sitting in a salon with all the smells and stuff just sounded horrible. So I had my sister do my hair for the day of, and I've still not cut it, like literally since last November. So I didn't even get a haircut before my wedding, and that's okay because how I looked is just me, natural me, and that's what I want to show my daughter one day when she looks at those photos. So it forced me to do that, and I'm very happy for that. So when we were dancing at the wedding, I had to really take it easy. I love to dance, and so normally that's like the time that I shine, but I was just going for a little bit of rocking motion, just trying, you know, to keep myself steady. So I couldn't really go all out with the dancing either, which was a little sad, but nevertheless, I loved it. That night we went, we stayed at a hotel, and that whole night was spent just with more of me throwing up and needing to eat. In fact, my wonderful, wonderful aunts on my mom's side who were staying at the same hotel had arranged for us to have a whole thing of treats waiting for us with Welch's sparkling juice since I couldn't drink and all of that when we got back to the hotel. And let me tell you, all my favorite snacks were in there and I ate them all. That's how much I needed to eat and how constantly. So it wasn't the most romantic wedding night and it wasn't exactly fun, but I will never forget it. In terms of this being a high-risk pregnancy, one thing I've had to learn is that there are a lot of scary things online, and even if you aren't a high-risk pregnancy, there are so many weird things that can happen during pregnancy and with like fetal development that you wouldn't even imagine. And then once you realize that that's actually a possibility for you and your child, it's like panic mode. But if you don't read too much into it and you listen to your doctors and listen to the women in your family that have had babies, probably because your body will react similarly to how theirs did, you should be okay. Just remain calm. It's hard to do, but it's possible. My tips are to join support groups. There are tons of people on Instagram. If you look through high-risk pregnancy hashtags or first pregnancy, type 1 diabetes and pregnancy, and I'm also part of a type 1 diabetes and pregnancy group on Facebook, and that has been both helpful and scary, kind of seeing like the extremes of what could happen. But it's really, really nice, as usual, to have a community online, just so you do not feel like you're the only one. And I always thought that it would be so difficult for me to have a pregnancy or babies or anything like this, being a type 1, and I was always so terrified. So it's really nice doing this alongside so many other brave and great women. So here's the big thing, is that a lot of people say that if they're type 1 diabetics and they want to get pregnant, that their doctors recommend that their A1C is under 6 for at least a period of 6 months. I'm telling you guys that mine wasn't. We had spoken with my endo before and told her that we were thinking about starting a family, and her response, I think I told you guys a little bit, was that she doesn't really like the concept of A1Cs, and she would rather just put me on the Dexcom and tightly control my numbers and see that they, just see in the graphs that everything was okay, and I'd be safe to get pregnant. So what I've learned from this group on Facebook is that A1Cs are all over the place, and it doesn't always determine how well your pregnancy goes or how big your baby is at birth. There are women with A1Cs at 5.5 with huge babies, people with A1Cs of, 10 that have a normal healthy baby. Not that it's not a goal to have a good A1C, but I think we need to stop scaring diabetic women so much and stop scaring ourselves, because all it does is cause more stress, and stress is just more high blood sugars. My A1C when I was pregnant was 7.5, and I've only brought it down to about 7.2. I'm gonna guess lower than that now. The last time I checked was 7.2, hoping it's lower now, not sure though. It is getting better. And I felt a lot of guilt about that in the beginning because I wasn't this perfect diabetic and my body just didn't feel like it was the safest place for a baby. So I really struggled with that a lot. But it's gotten easier. It's 2019, which means it has been a whole 10 years since I was diagnosed, and this is the last place I ever thought I would be in, pregnant and married. Like, it just gives me so much happiness. I wish I could tell myself 10 years ago that this is what would be happening, because I wouldn't have believed it, but it's just crazy. So when I do my 10-year challenge, which I will do a side-by-side photo on my diagnosis date, it's literally going to be like me 15 in DKA and then me at 25 like hugely pregnant, which is kind of cool. The thing that is a little weird is constantly hearing people ask if our child will have type 1 diabetes, which we don't know. We don't think there's a very high chance that she will be type 1 diabetic. We've asked lots of doctors and there's not a whole lot of research on, if two diabetic people reproduce, what happens. I know that the risk kind of gets lower depending on when you were diagnosed. Mikey was diagnosed at 11 and I was diagnosed at 15, so those are considered kind of later onsets than if we were to be diagnosed as young children. So somehow that lowers the risk, I believe. We're just gonna see what happens and be okay with whatever. What we like to tell people is that if she is a type 1 diabetic, then what better parents does she have than us, because we know what we're doing and it's so just a part of our normal routine. But even that being said, I think we both would be devastated if she was. But we're just gonna take that as it comes because we don't know yet. So I will keep you updated on that. I'm so happy my body is doing something that I wanted it to do, and I have 3 more months, which is crazy to think about, but whew, it's gonna get harder too. And now I will go ahead and show you my baby bump. There she is. That has been my experience thus far. Instagram and Facebook have been hugely helpful. I have like a million apps for pregnancy that I'm constantly checking. And at this point, I'm on so many different medications to keep me from puking that I'm actually able to function. So I'm doing pretty good and I'm happy. So thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please do give it a thumbs up. Make sure to click that bell notification button so that you're aware every time that I post a new video. And thank you as usual for watching me. Leave your comments below or send me a message on Instagram. I love you guys, and I will see you next time.